thanks for Milan going first. I was able to use AI Sensei a lot, so we can you know get this review going. I made sure to check everything. So right off the bat, when we look at the game as a whole, what really struck me that helped Milan win the game, with a good lead, was because of these floating moves here. So this move, and this move. These were all like almost all -5s, and I can just feel them, right? Like to me, they feel very slow.
Yeah,
So
they have no value. They don't give you anything.
yeah, and so from this game and from your past games too, Jerry, one of your biggest weaknesses is your direction of play. So usually you do very well, and then once we get to the middle game, I notice you usually do a floating move or two, and that will put you far behind. Um, so we really want to work on like our direction of play and finding the moves that are most important at the right time. The way you can figure that out is by using the philosophy of looking for your opponent's weaknesses, or look for your own weaknesses first, look for your enemy's weaknesses, and if you can't find either, then you make big moves. So at this point, like black has no weak groups, and so this is where you'll want to look for white's weaknesses. And I think you were trying to do that with these three stones. But these three stones aren't the biggest value on the board right now. The bigger value is this area for sure. Maybe an invasion in this area, and the computer believed that this was the best move. So just you breaking out into the center is already dampening this area and hurting these three stones. So you can see this direction is much better than this one. Um, but anyway, we'll get to the full review. But looking at some of your past games and looking at this one, direction of play is definitely your biggest weakness. And if you just contemplate about it more and get more reviews from higher level players, you can iron out your direction of play weakness pretty quickly. Um, so let's take a look at the game. So I didn't have too much to say. I will say for Milan, um, usually you don't see people ignore this, but it was fine, obviously, because you had two corners that you can enclose. And I think the strategy would work really well against me in particular because once you invade here, no matter if I'm jumping out or trying to flatten you down, or even if I played high here, Milan would definitely pincer, right? And so this strategy would be working really well against
100%.
me. Yeah,
That's why I played it.
yeah. This is
I
this.
uh, I know I'm better at fighting than Jerry,
Yeah,
so I wanted to make a bigger frame where he can jump in, and then I just hammer on the big group.
yeah. This would be a particularly good strategy against me too. And so I was, I was like, ee.
Ah.
But I was trying to figure out like if Jerry did anything wrong here. Like me, I would have jumped out straight to make things less complicated, right? But you'll be able to make territory on this side and then possibly on this side too. So, but this is
Yeah,
how the
I
game
like the.
is.
I really like the E16.
Yeah,
I think I don't like my response to it. I should have definitely just go to E17 and pick that Joseki, but this one is. I was hoping he's gonna go for the complicated variation since he has the ladder on the right corner,
yeah,
but
yeah,
he kept it calm.
yeah. And the AI had no problems with either of these. So every move so far, it really hasn't had any issues. So for me, like looking at this, I would be like, geez, that's a lot. That's a lot. And I know there's a weakness against these two stones here and here, but still, I would be like, yee.
But
um,
the right side looks big for black too, so I'm like, it's still kind of even, no?
yeah, in the computer said everything was fine to this point, even this move as well. This is the problem in the first issue that came up with direction of play and looking for your own weaknesses. Was this move. So this is a two-space, Jerry,
So
and we use this when we're in trouble or when we need to make a base. But we definitely don't want to use this in the first 25 moves. in the first 50 moves, the opening is all about corners first, then the sides and center. And in this particular case, we can see this is really big. Like, this is just bigger than this, right? And not only are we looking at like the biggest moves and direction of play and like where all the points are, but what we got to understand too is this group here. This group is very strong. It has connections to the corner if it needs it. It has a capture. It has lots of directions to run away. So this group is not in any danger. And when you make a two-space base like this is like trying to save something in danger. So we don't want to strengthen strong groups. It's as Milan said, it's a slow move. We want to look for big moves when you're safe. So this group is safe, and so we want to look for a good move. So the
So
computer really likes this move. Because you can kind of see, like, whichever way white tries to plays it, black has a lot of room here to run and try and make a base, right? And so this move is really good. Even if you just play it lightly, right? And you just let it go, then you can see this is a really nice combination move here. So this was pretty cool. I didn't spot this. I was looking at these the whole time, but the computer picked out this one, obviously. So very cool. But
yeah,
this is a very basic fundamental we need to understand, which is to not strengthen strong groups. Were you gonna say something, Milan? I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was gonna say something about this Joseki in the upper left corner that we played, and why this move on J17 is a move now.
Okay.
Because I fixed with a knight's move at the end of the Joseki. So instead of
Okay.
H,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
I
Yep.
should have done F17 or G16 or something, right? So I
Yeah.
reduced that. But then again, these moves on L17 and 16 would be a option. So,
Yeah, I
but
mean for sure, a little tighter, right? And so
yeah,
you're you're
exactly. Just a
you're
little
safe.
tighter.
You're safe. He has to take his safety, and then now you can save this group, something like this, right? I think this would be
Yep.
nice. But yeah, you're right. Once you did this knight's move, it opened up an area of weakness. Um, so this was the big like first mistake, fundamental mistake that we can talk about. This was the a part of the lecture we learned last week. I got to use this teaching my student because there was a perfect opportunity for this too. So it was a really
Yeah,
good
we just
lecture.
watched the lecture on
Yeah.
attaching Hane, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna use it.
And when Young Satan taught it, or Insyang, he didn't tell Black truly how to counter this. And so this was a good example in this game because we seen it 3 times happen in this game. You use it 3 times against Jerry Milan, and all
Because
three
that was
times.
the theme of the day,
Oh yeah, yeah. No, no, no. It's perfect because you have the ladder on both sides, right? So it's the perfect move.
Exactly, that's why I did it. I was like, okay, this is pretty much the example from the lecture, so I might as well.
Yeah, no, it was perfect. And using the AI, I kind of have a theory or strategy against it now. And what the AI has taught me is every time that somebody does this, instead of going for the inside, which gets cut off, just like how we learned in the lecture, the computer wants you to go on the outside. And so we can look at the variation because I didn't remember yet, but take. Here we go. So when it goes for the outside, because we can't really connect on the inside as much, black will then come, do another attach Hane, and then black double Hane, which opens up a weakness. And then once he guards, you get to guard. And so this looks far better than what happened in the game. What happened in the game was that white just got the outside, and then he's really, really strong. And so this
I'm very
area
happy.
has become very big. Yeah. And so at least this game, obviously I've only seen 3 examples of it, but with this game, we'll see every time the computer suggests not to go back on the inside, but to go on the outside. Now, if I was playing and we watched the lecture, I wouldn't go in. I wouldn't do what the lecture told me to do as black, right? I would play here, um, so that at least white couldn't do that technique. You know, this still looks nice for white, but it would break this technique. But that's what I would have done. But the computer obviously gave me a much better answer. So I wanted to share it with you.
Yep.
All right. So this is the next big fundamental mistake we got to learn here, Jerry. When we're in the crosscut in an even fight, we do not Atari in the crosscut. We usually don't even Atari once. So most of the time we'll play this, which sets up the ladder. And so then white has to save himself, and then you can save yourself, right? Or if he plays here, that's fine, because we'll have follow-ups. But in
But
this
you have
case,
a ladder blocker that's gonna invade down there and stuff. So
yeah, and in this particular case, if we're gonna Atari, then it should be on this side because we have this strength here. Now, to me, I wouldn't have done this move. The computer came up with this. And we can look at that variation if you want, but for me, I would have played a bit simpler. But what I really want to break down to you though is not to Atari, and I can show you the example why. I'm sure you guys have seen this example 100 times, but we need to continue to reinforce it because people are still doing it, right? So in a crosscut, in an even fight, we do not Atari and then Atari. And this is exactly what we have here, right? We have an Atari on this stone and an Atari on this stone. Do you know, Jerry, are you on the mic? Do you know why we don't do this?
Uh, no.
Okay, so when we Atari, it's like squeezing toothpaste, right? We squeeze the toothpaste out of the bottle, and then they get stronger, and we're left with a weakness. So this is already a bad idea. In an even fight in the crosscut, this is a bad idea. And now,
Okay.
if we do it again, we're squeezing that toothpaste once more, and we have 2 weaknesses now, or 3 weaknesses now. See, and so by doing this shape, this is hurting you like greatly. So you're gonna have to defend, and you still lose, right? So it's a very bad idea to crosscut in the Atari in a even fight. You'll see this in like all the beginner books. If you ever done any like beginners problem sets, usually you'll see problems like this, like where should black play next, and um, problems like this one, where should black play next, right? We know that it's supposed to be here. But yes, so I really want you to take a look at this because you always like doing contact fights. So this is a good strategy to remember, is not to Atari in the crosscut, especially twice. The only time you do want to do it is when you have strength when you're Atarying that way. But okay, we'll move on. So that was like the second big fundamental thing we got to keep in mind. This was the third example, or the second example actually, of the attach Hane. This was good for you, Milan, because once again you have the ladders on both sides.
exactly.
And this was the part of the lecture where Inseong taught us, like, this is what happens and how it works and stuff. But when it comes to the computer, like I said, the computer always, because we can't connect here, right? We see in the game that happens, right? We can't connect here, and so white creates a spike between us. It's good for white. So instead, the computer once again always goes for the outside, which once again I found fascinating. This time we actually will look at it real quick because this is still new to me, right? The attach Hane technique was new to me, and then learning to go.
Such a good lecture.
Yeah, and then learning to go on the outside is like really new to me too, right? Like usually I wouldn't Atari Hane this high on the 5th line, but after it
And
comes
white's
back to this,
Tanukis.
yeah, well, I guess this stone isn't that valuable right now, especially if black starts attacking up here. I thought it went further, but I guess all I can say from it, let's say if we kept it local, the alternate. What I can say from it is, if white was to play this, at least you can see that black has gotten more
A
outside
little more
influence.
outside, yeah.
And because you can't connect under here, then the outside influence is much more valuable, right? So we look at the real game and then we look at just a fake alternate, right? Like I'm assuming Milan you would have played here, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and then
I
here,
mean, the whole point of Q9 was to keep to separate white, right? To split them.
yeah, and look at it's that basic baby shape I told you about, right? And so we have the shape where we know there's a weakness, and so we have to guard it. And then if white persists, maybe white should play something like this, but if white persists, we can see that we can shut him out, right? And so even though these two got disconnected, they were going to get disconnected anyway, and so this outside is much more. So this is a useful tip, I guess, against the attachment Hane technique. And then finally, we got here. And once again, this is the attachment Hane technique. And, well, I would have played here, Jerry, so I don't blame you at all. But the computer continuously teaches me to go for the outside.
Outside.
Yeah. And so this one,
Okay,
I
we
remember.
learned the defense from attaching Hane, huh?
Yeah, this one makes more sense to me, too, because once we look at this example, we are tying in the crosscut because we have an extra stone, and then we're able to take the corner. And then White's able to save his group here. So it was very interesting. And whether or not it comes natural to you, which it doesn't to me, we should try to use the outside more than the inside when there's an attach on it like this. Okay. So finally, we reached a mistake for Milan. So
I was ahead. I was like, it's okay.
yeah. So I mean, you already know. Try to avoid the second line when it's the early game. Now we're at move 50, but it's still not the end game, right? And so the computer values this move much more, and it does this whole variation thing where it comes under, and then I think then it plays something like this, and black is able to get out, but white is. I might as well just let the computer do it because I didn't memorize it fully. Because naturally, I probably would have played what you played, Milan. To be fair,
No, I
but
knew it wasn't the best move, but I was hoping that.
all right. So we can see how this resolved, which was you take the knight's move for the outside. Black doesn't allow you to get the outside this area so easily, and then black pushes to weaken these, which then you
But
save,
this
and
is
then he comes
exactly the
under.
reason why I played P2.
Yeah, just to make things simple, right?
Yeah, so I get something, and
Yeah. No, I understand it. I would have probably played this too, to be fair.
So the problem is that like my I have a weak group on top. That's why the O6 is better, because it helps this empty triangle that I have on the right.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that Jerry kind of attacked it wrong too. He played M8 instead of on
Yeah.
the C. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. This was the wrong direction. And so it all ties into that theme, like I said, your direction needs a little work, and that floating moves will be your downfall. Like this is the bane of single digit Q players' existence, right? Like if we're still making lots of floating moves, then it's gonna keep us down. So we have to really avoid that type of way. But this is really nice. This does both. It attacks and it reduces. So we can
It
see.
makes my P2 move completely stupid.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And a third condition is it's helping this group stay out, and so it's doing like three things at once. But yeah, so this was painful. And for you, Milan, this was the next mistake out of these moves, which is to evaluate your stone's worth. So the computer thinks that this move is much more valuable than saving these three stones. So once we come to this situation here, it goes something like this. Where you're just taking more points than he got here. Apparently, this is what the computer says. So when we look, Oh yeah, he makes an attempt to save it, which then strengthens these stones, and then he can come out.
Yeah, and really grab all the points.
Yeah, and so this black wall isn't really gonna do much once white protects this because there's not a lot of points here for him to grab. He can't grab all these points easily. You know? So this wall won't help him as much as walls usually do. So that's it for the review. If we look at the main fundamental stuff, the first one is not to strengthen groups that are already strong. This is going to slow you down and give Milan the advantage in the direction of play, getting the biggest moves, which leads him to a point, advantage. For the Tachane, it seems to always go for the outside, so that's what we should attempt. And we'll try and practice and learn this. Because it went something like this.
But what if White just says, "I'll keep you separated. I have this Shamari," and he plays B10 instead of E.
E10 here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a few things that can happen. Um, let me think about it.
No, I mean I'm thinking about it too. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
playing devil's advocate here.
No, I got it. Normally I wouldn't attire across the cut, but because you have the advantage in this ladder, doesn't work. It
It
does.
does.
Even if it does, you can come under.
Well, no, it. Uh-huh.
And so, and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
activates the ladder for not working, right? So if white ignores it, now the ladder doesn't work.
No,
So
I
this,
think you were right. Leather doesn't work actually,
yeah,
even without it. But
yeah. So this is pretty nice. This is the one time you do Atari in the crosscut, because this is the Atari in the crosscut, is when you have the advantage. When you have stones directly next to you, then you can do this. But without it, it's a bad idea. Um, so that was cool. And then, and yeah, this was the wrong. This is the wrong. So you have two Ataris in the crosscut, which is the shape that we gotta erase from you, Jerry. Try not to really, when you're in the crosscuts, evaluate more about protecting your weak side
kicks, yeah.
and extending. And in this case, this doesn't look the best because white can get a really nice kill here. But so instead of extending this way, I was thinking this one, but the computer, came up with this um, situation. So anyway, so that's the second fundamental, or the third one. And then the last one was just these floating moves. We really gotta evaluate what's important. This area right here is not important. What's important is this area and this area. I didn't talk about it too much, but the computer's constantly screaming for you to play like over here and here, um, like through most of the match. And so, this was the direction of play at the time.
I mean, it makes sense that those two stones are the White's weakness, right? So profit from its weakness that he left. That's pretty much what AI says here.
Yeah. So that's it. I hit my 30-minute marker. I think we covered the most important stuff when it comes to the game. I usually always try and find like 5 really important fundamental things and then focus on that because that gives you enough already to work on. Um, and I didn't really look too much farther in the game. I assume Milan got to keep his lead because he had a 20-point lead when you did these floating moves. When we look, so, this was the first big one, -5. The next big one, -11. And then the next big one. So I thought it was 20, but it's like 15. But still, that's a tough lead against Milan. Facing somebody 4 ranks higher than you, that's a really tough lead to go over. But okay,
Yeah.
I'll end it here.